Don't-
It's my quarantine mohawk.
There you go. You gotta do that. Just go up and do your thing with like a big mohawk. It'd be funny. What is up, peoples? I'm the Motorcycle Mick, and today we are back with another one of our Motorcycle Mick variety shows. Because I like the way it went last week, even though the Norseman took over for most of the time because I was on call. But guess what? I am not trapped by the confines of a work phone this week. So we could have fun and shenanigans. This week's video was teaching you how to ride during quarantine. Very simple, very to the point. And actually, being truthful, like it's something I uploaded like very beginning of my channel, and I was like, I put a lot of effort into this, and I really wanted to get people to learn how to ride. And now I've got a following, so I figured I'd take advantage of that and maybe be able to help someone learn how to ride a motorcycle. Because I don't really know how hard the courses are to get into right now. Like I know Harley's is,
I think they're all suspended at this point.
yeah, and there's no way for people to really learn how to ride besides YouTube videos. And you can't get a permit right now because the Secretary of State is a pain in the butt to get into.
I think that's actually kind of comical to see somebody riding around in a parking lot with an iPad strapped to the handlebars.
You know what, though? I could see it happening. It would actually be pretty cool. This chair is like... So my other chair is in the living room because I've been using that for comfortable uses of what it's actually for, which is playing some Call of Duty. So this chair,
Right
my other office chair, if you watch, I'll slowly just start dropping. What's up, Yankee, Texans, Seattle light? Sup, beaches?
Sup, beach?
It keeps changing.
It's like you in Call of Duty.
What? Oh, it just... You know what? I actually have a second YouTube channel just streaming Call of Duty, and I have 5 subscribers. And then I'm like, someone's like, you'll never get far in YouTube. And I'm like, well, I've got like 1,340 on my other channel. And they're like, what do you do?
Like this and that.
You know, motorcycle related shit. But yeah, so
lights.
I had to add the latest address.
That's funny.
I don't understand that. Yankee, Texan, Seattle light. It's just, I could just see the triangle, like North, Texas, Seattle. He's creating the Bermuda Triangle of name changes.
Yeah.
We're all going to get sucked into it.
I'm going to change mine to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
Active. Believe it or not, there's a lot of those out there.
Yeah.
What? You going to talk? Nope. Okay. Sorry. I'm having a conversation with my cat, Heart to Heart. So,
Vortex.
Vortex. So, one of the things I actually thought about this week is me having my Sportster, and I remember you told me that Miss Norseman was riding on a Sportster, and a lot of people ride Sportsters. Well, with the new emission stuff that the Europeans have, and especially with the way the United States is going, that Evo motor cannot pass emissions anywhere. Like, I know if you change like even the mufflers on it, it won't pass emissions. It's super difficult to get it to pass emissions. But Harley does have that new Revolution platform coming out. I wonder if it's going to be going into the Sportster.
I actually can't wait till that happens. Their stock has been, I don't know, hovering, to say the least.
I'm curious because their whole program they have set up is insane, to say the least. Like, they keep going for, I don't even know how to explain it. I honestly don't know how to explain it. The way they are going about rewiring the company and then the hardwire and blah, 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 like giving all these technical names for stuff that has absolutely no Harley heritage behind it. Like,
which is fine and well. I mean, it's just kind of breathing life into a new program.
Yeah, but the new program is focusing on their old consumers. Like that's the
Yeah,
funny part about it
that's the drawback.
is they are taking and putting the I guess they're focusing on their core whatever their core demographic is. And I'm really curious about what that actually is in their mind going to be. If that's going to be the old riders, people are still buying bikes, or they're going to be times are tough. I know it. Everyone's experiencing hardships. And it's not good. It sucks. It sucks that everyone's experiencing hardships, but Harley is really, I think, taking a step in the wrong direction when they're just focusing on their core demographic.
I don't know. I'm waiting for some more info on that because I don't know. I think like anything else, change happens slow. You know, immediate change is not something that you can throw out there and have happen to where you'll be successful if you just make fast changes. So I think they're easing into things because there is a legacy portion of it that they're trying to work around per se.
I being someone that understands both generations, anyone under 30 riding a Harley Davidson these days, Yankee.
I mean,
I am, but I feel like so many people get pushed into a street glide when it comes to Harleys, and everyone knows how I feel about street glides. I absolutely hate them.
really weird. I don't know why. Maybe it's just been I see a lot more like I started like recently subscribing to like Clockworks, and I see a lot of street glides, and I don't know. They're starting to grow on me.
They will never grow on me. I absolutely hate street glides, and the reason being is because if you walk into a dealership, it's the one bike they're going to try and push you to buy. It's not a Heritage, it's not a Road King. They're like, hey man, like this is the bike that has it all. It's got the radio, got everything. But in my mind, those bikes aren't really that fun to ride.
You know what? I take that back. It's not the street glide. I was thinking of the road glide. Sorry.
Well, yeah, the Road Glide is something that Harley does. I mean, I do like the Road Glides, but
I don't know.
yeah,
I could not get next to the fixed fairing. It's just the way the whole thing just kind of like lays out in front of you, and I don't know. I don't know. I just had a hard time swallowing it, but like I don't know. Nowadays, I'm kind of looking at it going, that's actually not bad. And it probably rides really, really well.
I don't like the setup of them. The one thing I don't like about the Street Glides is, unlike every other Harley Davidson that exists, it's that they are the hardest to actually customize. Because if you're going to want to change your bars on the bike, which everyone does, everyone buys like a Street Glide, and it's like you got to change the bars.
You're limited,
and it's not even limited to like the bars you can put on it. It's that it's such a hard bike to actually change the bars on because you got to pull the fairing off, and I absolutely hate that aspect of it. Every other bike.
I'm throwing this out there. Any bike that you're going to change the bars on, you have to remove the fairing.
The Road Glide, you do not.
I mean,
the Road Glide, the bars are exposed, and every other. I mean, all the soft tails, all of the
I can tell you on the Road
Sportsters.
Kings. Yeah, on the Road Kings, you have to. You got to get underneath the headlight cover and the handlebar cover, and got a lot of dressing on that area there.
There is the dressing on those, but it's not like you have to pull off a fairing, which is like removing a bunch of bolts to the plastic. And
I mean, mine are just like, but
Yankee said he had one. Front end's too heavy and the buffeting is a problem. He said had a Road Glide too. Handling was much better than the Street Glide. I agree with that. I 100% agree with that.
It's kind of like what I haven't had the opportunity to ride a Road Glide, but I could tell you just from the people that I've known that have them, everybody has stated the same thing, that they ride so much better, and they handle so much better, especially at like high speeds. just because you have that fixed fairing.
Yeah, and that's a big factor in that is that you don't have the wind on your handlebars.
Yeah.
That's a big one where you don't have wind on the handlebars. Whereas like with the Street Glide, having the fairing mounted to the handlebars, you feel that wind movement. You get into high winds. But I've always just liked the windshield look, or even the Road Glide, the shark nose. I like that style. I don't like having weight on the bars themselves. Never been a fan of that. Like I feel like you have less control when it comes to, because and especially riding the Road Glide and the Challenger. Like I love that feeling of the free movement of the bars. It gets a little time to get used to the fairing not moving.
Yeah.
Having something that moving in front of you, but its control is way better, and the speed of it and the way everything works and the aerodynamics. The shark nose might not be the prettiest thing, but it is super super comfortable.
I think one of the things that I always had issues with especially with like with a fixed fairing is the mere fact of like at night coming into corners, like I like the fact that I can aim my headlight where I'm going. You
Yeah,
know,
but the Road Glide puts out such a big beam of light.
and
Like,
still you still go into it somewhat blind, I imagine.
well, and then Harley does have the new adjusting turn lights too, like where you lean in. How did I like the Challenger? I think the Challenger is leaps and bounds in front of the Road Glide. If I was to go to a fixed fairing, I would go over to an Indian Challenger. I would not buy a Road Glide. The Challenger was just like, everyone talks about the fit and finish of the bike, but I feel like that's what makes it awesome, is because even going back to like the victories, they weren't like the cleanest lines, but they looked really cool just because that was the aspect of it. The cars back in the day, all the muscle cars were big and boxy, and they had some good lines to them, but from the front, or looking at them, like, it did seem like some of the parts weren't as expensive as they could have been.
That makes sense. I don't know. I just when it comes down to like part quality, it's like I don't know. Like you remember they can't if you build a bike using like the highest end components and everything's like like very like super high quality, it just starts. You're not going to get to the price point where you need it in order to make it marketable.
I think that, and you're right, and I think that's something also too is like, yeah, the fit and finish on the Road Glide might be, better than a Challenger, but in my mind, looking at both the bikes, all that extra fit and finish on that Road Glide makes it heavy,
I mean,
and
that's also true.
that Challenger was thrown around like a toy. Like, it was such a clean ride. Man,
I was out and about the other day, and I actually saw probably one of the most peculiar. I would have to consider it a motorcycle, but it literally looked like a. And if anybody out there knows what I'm describing, you could put a name to it. That would be great too, because went looking for it. It basically looked like a Honda Goldwing in a trike format, but it was much smaller and it had like skins around the side and like a bit of an overhang. So it almost looked like a chariot would be the best way to describe it. And it was like pearl white and it was actually looked pretty cool. But the only best way I could describe it is it looked like one of those like handicap Migos on steroids.
hmm.
Yeah, it was actually pretty cool.
There are some cool, like, what is it? The Lycan? No, it's not the Lycan. It's that new adventure kind of sport bike thing where it's got the two wheels in the front and one in the back. But
The Can-Am.
no, it's actually a motorcycle. Like, it's got two motorcycle tires in the front. And,
Can-Am is still considered a motorcycle.
Well, it is, but like this actually had motorcycle tires on the front.
Just like the slingshot.
Yeah. Well, we all know that that's for some reason a motorcycle. I think that's because
The slingshot literally looks like it got rear-ended by a sport bike. Like the front end of it is like a Fiero, and the ass end is a sport bike. It looked like somebody just bolted the two together.
I think the Can-Am, you know what? I think why the Can-Am slingshot's so cool though is because it is like a less expensive version of a T-Rex. And the T-Rexes were cool. I actually would love to have one of those.
I'm not familiar with the T-Rex.
A T-Rex is like a supercar looking. Like, let me see. I do this real quick.
Yeah, see if you can pull it up. Give me a visual.
There we go. All right. I go over here. Come on. There we go. That is a T-Rex.
That is pretty cool.
Like, and they got some pretty insane ones too. Like this right here.
Oh, that is pretty cool.
Like
what's the power plant on that thing?
I think.
Don't tell me Jigster motor.
Let's see. Oh. Whatever. All right. Let's see what the RR is. Does it even tell you what the motors are? Oh, there we go. 200 horsepower, 998 pounds, color. 1441 four-cylinder engine from Kawasaki.
Oh, it's a four banger.
It is. Or see the SPI. See if it changes with the modern update. 160 horsepower. So that one's high revving six-cylinder from BMW. I don't understand.
Yeah, you gain 2 cylinders and lose 40 horse.
Yeah, I'm actually like thoroughly 3.9 second acceleration. I'm actually kind of burnt about that. I don't actually understand why that one has a V6 and 200. Like I don't get it. Like why engine?
Nowadays, it's amazing what they can do with a 4-cylinder.
208 horsepower, 116 foot-pounds of torque. Okay. And then over here, let's go down to engine. 160 horsepower, 129 foot-pounds of torque. So you get more torque, but you get less horsepower? I don't get it. It confuses the crap out of me. Like, I don't get how that works. The science behind like you figure that BMW straight six, because that's an inline six, which I mean you probably could get a lot of torque and fun out of it. But I don't understand how.
I mean, the thing weighs like what, 1,000 pounds?
998.
So yeah, about 1,000 pounds, and I don't know, 160 horse. It's still pretty damn good.
I mean, how much is a fully dressed out road or like a road, or I guess road glide or street glide or ultra? I guess I should say weigh like probably about 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So I get it then. I mean, that's pretty good. It's got like a little saddlebag thing on the side.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, the slingshot is like, so those T-Rexes are super expensive. Like, it's got like a name like Champagne or something like that.
Champagne.
Champagne or whatever.
Yeah.
These are some shady looking Harley dudes. What's up, y'all? What's up, Patrick? I don't know, man. Like, I would love to, if I had millions of dollars, I would have little toys like that everywhere. It'd be fun. I would probably just, I'd buy a property, build a house, and build a pole barn, and just fill it with bikes. Yeah, you know, I got my, I got my
collection.
I got my Harleys parked next to my McLaren F1 or, you know, P36D, whatever they're on now. I would like to get a McLaren F1, though, the original Super Demon. But yeah, I mean, motorcycle wise, I mean, they're considered motorcycles. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is it's a car. If it's got a steering wheel, it's got a car.
It is. And those T-Rexes are one-seaters. Like they have two-seater ones, but they are
a side-by-side or fore aft.
Just one cockpit. Oh, side by side. So they do have two seats. In this picture, it looks like they only have one. I guess it has two. One for the person driving and one for the passenger.
Yeah, I think it
is two seats.
My personal opinion, it's an ORV.
I would love to get the Ariel Atom off-road one. I don't know if you've ever seen that or not.
Mm-mm. I think like anything else, like with stuff like that, it's like, yeah, I know they register them as motorcycles and you need a cycle endorsement to drive them, but I mean, I don't know, like as soon as you start putting in like full seats, a steering wheel, and like all the other amenities that a car has, I mean, it's a car.
Yeah, it is, but they do have some cool stuff. I mean,
it's no different than me taking. I mean, what if I take my, I take my terrain here, and I go ahead and, put a single wheel on the front. It's still going to register as a car, even though it's got three wheels.
See if I can get over a screen share for this. Application window. There we go. Share. That.
Dude, it's like the Nomad. Nice.
Like this. Look at that thing, dude. They're super mean. If I lived somewhere warmer, I would get one of those for my daily driver.
That would be actually pretty cool.
Have like a toolbox bolted to the back.
Yeah, it's like a Mad Max vehicle.
It is, dude. It's a super Mad Max vehicle. I mean, there is some crazy. I want to find that bike now, though. You were talking about. Let's see.
Which one? Oh, the.
All right, let's see if we can find this Goldwing trike-looking thing. You said it looked like a Goldwing trike?
It looked like a Goldwing trike, but it was like much smaller. Because Goldwings are like very like distinct, right? They're just burly, beefy, all over the place. But this thing was like I said, it had like side shields on it that looked like doors. I wanted to get a picture of it, but he turned off before I got an opportunity to snap a picture of it.
Where? Like nothing like that?
No. Like the whole like the
like the right here.
Yeah, like the whole engine aspect of it. Like if you were to take those what I'd consider floorboards and just pitch them up, that's what it looked like.
I'm actually super curious now because now I need to find it. It wasn't a BMW, was it? No.
No, I'm gonna see if I can find it too.
Import trikes. Let's see. Import trike. Wow, there are some cool looking trikes. What in the hell? Reverse trike is what they're calling that.
Yeah, that was definitely not it.
Like, that's a mean looking Goldwing trike. Is that a car tire on the front? It is. Jeez.
Boy.
Like, I'm trying to figure out if anyone in the chat knows what it is. The trike that looks like kind of like this, but not like this.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find one.
Kawasaki trike? Nope. It looked new?
It looked very new.
Holy crap, look at that thing. There's a Victory cross country trike. That looks very, very interesting.
Victory is I don't know. Victories are very distinct going down the road. I saw the dresser, and it was absolutely looked like a spaceship going down the road.
Oh, the cross country or the Vision, whatever it
Yeah.
is. You know what? Victories I always like though. I mean, if they still made them, I would probably be writing a Victory right now. But they stopped making them, man. And when they stopped making them,
We had a thunder in the plant, basically where we got to ride our motorcycles and do like a little bike show inside of our manufacturing facility, and Victory had brought a couple of their bikes out, and then when it was all said and done, we were helping the Victory guys get their bikes out of the plant. And I got to ride that thing. It was super nice. It was quiet. I mean, it really was like riding a snowmobile, but like it was such a smooth ride going out.
you know, and Victory was always known for that, man. Like they said, like they may not have been the loudest bikes, but they were super smooth. Like
Yeah.
that's what I loved about Victory is they were just such smooth motorcycles. They were super fun. But you know,
I wish I could find this thing.
I know, dude. Now it's gonna kill you because if you didn't see a brand on it, which sucked.
Yeah, he was too far to identify, but like I don't know, it was just like very distinct.
Running in the deep depths, sport bike trike, which is look like that.
Like what?
Oh wait, I'm not screen sharing.
No, you're
No.
not.
All right, application window. We're going to the dark places now. It's actually pretty cool though. Looks like a Hayabusa trike.
Yeah, that did not look like that.
I don't know, dude. Harley trikes just look so dorky. Don't know what it is about them, but they just look dorky to me. Ooh,
I think they're bulky.
I think we're close. Look at that. Kind of like
that, but just put side shields on it where like it would be like a door. And it didn't have a roof or anything. I don't think it had a roof or anything like that. It was just the side panels. Like you were sitting almost in like imagine like a sidecar that was like self-driven.
Oh, we got into some weird depths.
Oh, wait, hold on. Go up to the second picture from the left. That one.
Like that?
Yeah, it looked a lot like that.
Did it have taillights like that?
Let me see. I can't see the back end.
This is what the back end looks like.
Yeah, I believe that is it.
It had a steering wheel?
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually really cool. It's the Stallion Trike by Thoroughbred Motorsports.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, I think that was it.
It is a very
But it was pearl white.
all right. Or I can't spell. Thoroughbred Stallion Trike. Pearl. That
That was it.
I mean, that's interesting.
Yeah, like I
And
said, something just like caught my eye, and I'm like, oh, what's that?
those got to be pretty rare. That does not look like a trike that's just going down the road normally.
Yeah, that's definitely a one-off.
Wait, hold on. I mean, it's a manufacturer company.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like around here, what you see rolling around, it's a one-off. It's not the standard trikes that you see.
$33,000. That's it. What?
And that's a single-seater, isn't that? Oh,
That's
no,
two-seater.
It's a two-up.
See, I just don't like that motorcycle seat with like. It feels so weird having a motorcycle seat and having a car steering wheel because like you can see that right there, but it's got air conditioning and heat for both passenger and driver. 5-speed auto transmission with reverse, AM, FM, blah blah blah. Adjustable pedals. Wow. So it's got pedals. Cruise control, integrated power disc trailer hitch, interior lighting, onboard air compressor to adjust the air ride suspension, front and rear billet wheels, tilt steering, 9.5 gallon, trunk carpet. It's got a trunk.
Most trikes, I imagine, do.
Front seat backrest and fog lamps. All right, I gotta see.
So it's basically a car.
Trunk. Oh, dude, that's got like a legit trunk. Wow. That's pretty cool.
I don't know, man. That just seems like a little much.
I mean,
You know,
yeah.
It's interesting because it's like if you got one of these for the amount of money that you're gonna spend on that, yeah, the novelty of having a one-off per se, or something that not a lot of people have, is the cool factor is obviously up there, but like if you want a convertible, just go buy a convertible.
Okay, let's go down this rabbit hole of Can-Am slingshots. See, that looks cool as hell. Like that looks like a Batmobile type thing. That I could roll with.
I don't know. It'd be fun to have just to tool around on, but once again still would not consider it a motorcycle.
Slingline's full enclosure system for Polaris slingshot. Only $40,495. That's not bad because you could just basically turn it into a car.
Well, you're enclosing your slingshot is basically what you're doing.
And I've always wondered, because I know the general price on these things.
I thought it was like 35.
Slingshot SL starting at $25.99, $4.99.
Yeah, there's a guy that I used to work with that had one of those, and his was about 35 because his was like fully loaded.
Wow, really? Slingshot life. What is a slingshot? Slingshot history. I'm intrigued. From concept to reality. I 2.4 Ecotech. It's got a Chevy motor.
Well, yeah.
It's got the Chevy 4-cylinder. Dude, that thing is awesome. Like, I don't think it's considered a motorcycle. I don't think it should be because it's got a car in. I mean, it's only a car with 3 wheels.
That is considered a motorcycle. You need a cycle endorsement to.
Oh, I know.
To ride one.
I know it's considered a motorcycle, but it would be cool to have as like a novelty thing, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. It definitely is a head turner per se, because you don't really see too many of them out there. But like, I don't know, just not a.
Yeah, but if you live down south, that thing would be viable because it's got probably way better fuel economy. You could travel in it. It's fun.
Yeah, but I mean, could you imagine doing like a 1,200-mile road trip on that thing?
Probably be comfy as hell the whole time.
I know that's the point.
You still get to experience the outdoors and get to have some fun while doing it. I mean,
That's
it's fun.
Buy a Jeep and take the doors off.
Yeah, but that doesn't go. That Jeep doesn't go as fast as that Slingshot does. I think speed is a huge factor for me, where it's like I can go quickly and not worry about rollovers.
I don't know about that.
That thing sits so low to the ground and it's got a wide base.
Yeah, but also don't forget it also has like the same ground effects as like probably Formula One. So when you go ahead and you hit something, guess what? The
It
dynamic
goes up and over.
Yeah, that changes the dynamics of it. Bye.
I mean, I would probably if I could.
Why do you think it's called a slingshot?
I mean, if I had the ability, it's because it's got two wheels and one in the back, so it looks like someone playing a slingshot back. Science.
You just made that up as you went.
No, like that's legit.
That's legit. I'd like to see that in writing.
Okay, since we're going down.
Seriously? Wow.
We're going down the rabbit hole today.
Why is a slingshot? It's called a slingshot.
Since that just the ultimate joyride was born. Polaris, but slingshot advance that Okay, so how did the Polaris slingshot get shot?
Patrick says, I believe you.
Name.
He'd believe anything. Just kidding, Pat. Just kidding.
I mean, that's the only logical thing I can think of how it got its name. Yeah, it probably slingshots you forward, but it's got two wheels in the front. It's got one in the back.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it doesn't sound believable. I'm just saying that may not be the case.
There's slingshot top view. Okay, so here we have the top view of Polaris slingshot. All right, 1, 2, one wheel in the back. You know, it's a Polaris slingshot. Another top view of it, Polaris slingshot. Then, if we open a new tab and type in slingshot.
Are you seriously about to pull up a slingshot?
Oh, Google, you can't make location.
I think I struck a nerve with Patrick.
What the what? Why? I type in kid slingshot and it's like, oh, look at eBay. You can buy like a kiddie version of a slingshot. This is not what I wanted to find. Okay, well, there we go. Slingshot. 1, 2, one in the back. Just saying. That's what it.
Still not buying it.
Holy crap!
Hey, wow! I made it on here. That's pretty cool.
What's up, Saddle Tramp?
What's up, buddy?
Saw you guys was happening, and I was thinking, well, I guess I'll just pop in and say hi for a short moment and just impose on the party.
We're never an imposition.
Yeah.
See, top view, slingshot. Top view, slingshot.
I'm thinking more so from propulsion versus the way aesthetics.
That is my story, and I'm sticking with it.
That's fine. I'd agree with you, but then we both be wrong.
You know what? I'm gonna start doing that. I'm gonna start having a slingshot in my saddlebags. And when someone's like, "Oh man, I got a slingshot," I'd be like, "I got one too, man." And they're like, walk over to my Harley and they're like, "Where's it at?" And they're like, reach in the saddlebag, pull out a slingshot.
Actual slingshot.
Okay, so what we do understand that three-wheel vehicles are cars.
Yes.
Well, I don't know if you want to call them cars, but they're definitely not motorcycles.
We got to find a new name for these things. Like straight up, just find a new name for like that type of vehicle.
Well, I used to call a sling, well, I still do, a backwards trike or something like that.
Yeah,
You know?
it's like those. It's like the Can-Ams. It's like I get the design behind them. You know, put the two wheels in the front for better stability around cornering. You don't have to worry about like, you know, your typical problems that you have with a traditional trike.
Right.
You know, but like I think at the end of the day, the mere fact that you now put a cockpit in here, you put a steering wheel in, you put some pedals.
Hey! It's a new world. We can't call it a cockpit. Okay, it's piloting space.
I guess.
I'm sorry, if you wanted PC, this is not the.
Yeah, I'm not very PC either, but I try to hold my tongue and not get on the subject whenever it comes up. Because anyway, I'll be called a hater if I did. But oh well, you know.
You know what? You know.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, man. I gotta pull something up real quick on this side. Go ahead.
That's perfect. You got to pull it up.
You don't even know what I'm pulling up right now, do you?
You're pulling up what Hattrick wrote.
All right, so Saddle. Oh, you might know what these are too, but I know Saddle Tramp's definitely gonna know what this is.
Oh yeah.
100% will know.
Oh my god.
No, I don't know what that is.
You don't know what a.
But I can guarantee it was probably made in Europe.
It is. It's a Reliant Robin.
I never heard of that.
So it was a three-wheel vehicle that literally had such a problem with rolling over.
Well,
Like,
it looks like it.
So
What are those rims? Like 12s?
I wish I could pull up and not get like copyright banned or anything like that. But
Just looking at that, just look at that body. You know, the chassis that's underneath it. It's just going to roll over. It's a given.
okay, I don't care about this stream real quick, so I'm gonna.
I'm pretty certain that if you like turned and goosed it, it would literally just like you'd scrape your bumper.
Right.
That design does not look very stable.
Mm-mm. I mean, if regular three-wheelers, you know, from back in like the 80s and the 90s were notorious for flipping, you know, a car that has three wheels like that, it weighs about a ton, is definitely going to roll over.
Oh, yeah. As soon as you cut the wheel on it, bam, there it is. You know what gets to me? Like the mere fact that like somebody actually sat down and designed this thing out and said it's gonna work.
But they had like the intro to this. It doesn't show. It doesn't show. But
There it is.
That's just retarded.
It's just like
That's just like wow.
I bet that didn't last very long, did it?
there was a funnier one where Jeremy Clarkson's like introducing it.
Well, it's like, did he just open the door and flip it back upright?
Yeah. But there's one where like where it basically what happens is it starts off with Jeremy Clarkson introducing it. And like behind him, he's like, and this is the Reliant Robin. And like Richard Hammond just rolls it like 3 times past him. But it's like, okay, so that didn't work. And then all of a sudden, this is where slingshots came from, where it's like we finally have a car or a tricycle.
Yeah, but you can tell that a lot of thought went into the slingshot idea. That, I mean, just the fact that it sits low to the ground and it's not top heavy, that car was just flat out top heavy. I mean, the law of physics was just going to take over that whole scenario and say, bloop, you know, it just, you can look at it and tell that thing's going to roll.
Well, I think Can-Am really jumped onto something when they made the slingshot that was smart though.
Mhm.
Is, you know, TV shows like Fantasy Factory with Rob Dyrdek and all those back in the day, like they always showed the T-Rex, you know, and the T-Rex was a 3-wheel vehicle, but it was also like $120,000. You know,
Yeah.
it was super cool looking, but now you can get one for, you know, 20 grand used or even less. I just stick to my 2 wheels. I enjoy 2 wheels way more. I don't think if you have a steering wheel, you should be considered a motorcycle.
Well, 2 wheels, in my opinion, handles better in curves. I mean, that you're not going to roll over on a bike. I I don't know the Harley Davidson trikes. I don't know what the technology is in that, how they compensated for that. You know, because I remember riding a 4-wheeler not too long ago, and I never rode a 4-wheeler before. I thought I was going to throw myself off of that thing or flip the thing or something like that. You know, or
There's
I couldn't imagine it being a 3-wheeler back in the day that always rolled over. So I kind of wonder how a manufactured trike will do what they did to, you know, make up for that.
You know, I always thought Harley's trikes looked kind of dorky.
Well, it's just a bagger with 3 wheels. That's pretty much what they are.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying baggers are dorky. That's just what they look like to me. You know, they're just a bagger with 3 wheels. I mean, you really can't. I don't know. I don't know what I was going to say there, but I know that, you know, a lot of the. I guess it's Harley's attempt to keep the guys riding who can't ride anymore because they're so something. You know, maybe they're up there in age, or maybe they got something wrong with them, and so if they don't have the strength to hold a bike up or whatever, then they got this. You know, so I guess what they're trying to do is have a motorcycle for everybody.
Which I understand. That's why they brought out their new trike. Is it the Tri-Glide?
Yeah, they call it the Tri-Glide. Yeah.
Which is just like the stripped down version of the trike. It's weird.
I'm going to tell you this. There are some pretty cool looking trikes up there. If you look up Exile Cycles and look up their trike.
Oh yeah, I know who that guy is.
Yeah, Russell from Exile.
Yeah.
He comes up with some very, very like unique designs. And if I was to ever get a trike, that would be it.
Jesus.
His stuff looks like it shouldn't even run. It's so minimalistic.
Yeah.
You can't see a wire. You can't see a cable. You can't. It's so.
Because everything's like internal throttle, internal clutch.
Right.
You know, everything's like there's no chrome on it. You can get it in any color you want as long as it's flat black.
Right.
I mean, that's the last thing was probably just recently.
You know what's funny about him? I can't remember his last name, but Russell is definitely his first name. It may be different now, but I remember watching a video with him in it, and he was doing a bike show, and he says in Europe he's never lost a bike show, and in the U.S. he's never won a bike show.
Yeah.
So
Russ Mitchell.
He's got that. I don't know. It's definitely not something that's native to this country when it comes to custom bikes.
Well, and that's the thing is I believe he's from Great Britain.
Yeah, he's English.
Yeah, so and I think with that, you know, he came with more of like that minimalist, kind of like punk rock type.
Yeah, I guess. I remember him saying he wants his bikes to look like they shouldn't even run.
Yeah.
Which is kind of where I got the idea where I built my bike. You know, the Tramp, all the wires are internal, well, most of them and stuff. So when you look at the thing and compare it to, or for example, a popular thing to do when you get like an Iron 883 or a 1200 Low or something like that, people put the tank lift kit on there. And when they do that, it exposes all the vacuum hoses and wiring harness and all that kind of stuff. Well, if you look at the Tramp, you know, along the backbone, the average Joe would look at that and go, why is this thing even running? You know?
Yeah, there's like no wires.
Right, everything's in the frame. That's how I did that. Except for the rear tail light, there's no way I could do that. But you don't really even notice it though.
But I think that's what makes it cool is the customization of the bike. Again, building bikes. Like, yeah, you know, I did buy both my bikes, but at the same time, it's like I mean, and the Sportster wasn't new, but the Heritage was, and it's like that customization aspect of it. I feel like people get caught up in, you know, all the big flashy stuff, that the clean stuff, you know, like the Tramp, where it's such a minimalistic looking bike, and it is, but it's also, when you look at it from a building perspective, a super clean, like really cool looking bike. It doesn't need to have all of the CVO and special and paint job and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and all of that's really relative to the one who owns the bike. What do you want out of a motorcycle? With CVOs and some other bikes, there's so many features about them that, I mean, I remember, I'll put it this way. I remember when I had my 2012 Heritage Softail, and I had the seat off of it a couple of times for something, and I seen that massive freaking wiring harness that was in there under the seat, and then I got this Evo Heritage Softail, and I pulled the seat off of it for whatever reason, and the first time I saw what was underneath it, I was like, "That's it? That's all?"
Yeah.
You know? And I sometimes less is just more. You know, batteries tend to last longer on things that don't require a whole lot of wires. That's been my experience. Um, I forgot what the original topic was, though, because I got on a tangent.
No, that's just the way this works. You
It's
know,
the variety show.
It's
There's
the variety.
no
Everything
tangents.
goes.
Yeah, I do know that when I built the Tramp, I did want to make it look like it shouldn't even run in the relatively speaking to what we have nowadays. You know, you can't even see the wires going to the coil, and the coil is like right there in your face, and you all you see is plug wires come off the coil to the spark plugs, and you can't see the wires behind it, because it's perfect how the top motor mount worked out, because the top motor mount hides the wires.
Yep.
And I mean, you have to like stick your nose behind, literally stick your nose between the jug and the coil to actually see anything. But just standing there looking at it, it's like, wow, you know, you don't see anything, you know.
See, what's interesting about that is, you know, it's kind of like a dual-edged sword, because it's like when you do something like that and you start running wires into the frame, and you know, start like, I don't know, like I did one bike where I did the same thing. I basically hit all the wires. There was like, you couldn't see anything, you know. The only drawback with that was I found when I had an electrical problem with it, troubleshooting it was a nightmare.
Oh yeah, well, it can be that. So that's why it's very important to know what each wire is and what it does. Like I remember when the first time I got that bike running, I had issues with it. I had issues with the ignition, and it would cut off and it would come back on, and cut off, it would backfire. And it has an ECM on it. It's not points or anything like that. And I eventually found out it was the ECM that was under the seat, because I used the original one, and well, all the wires to it are running through the frame, and there's, you know, so how the heck am I going to do that? So what I ended up having to, you know, accept that is when I buy a brand new ECM, which was near impossible, because it's using an 86 to 1990 ECM, which is obsolete. You can't get. And I happened to find one that was new old stock online, and I had to cut the pigtail off of it and start splicing the new old stock wires to the wires I ran to it, and now it runs. But that's the kind of the thing that you have to pretty much remember, or, you know, accept when you build your own thing, is that there's no manual to it. You know, you are the manual. And now when that ignition goes out, that ECM goes out, if it ever goes out, you know, I'm not going to be able to find another one for it. So I'm kind of like, well, what am I going to do now if that happens? Well, I remember saying in a video, one of my videos, that, well, if that ever happens, I do have the means to convert it to points. I could do that. I don't know if I want to do that. But then again, there's pros and cons on both sides of the fence. You know, with electronic ignition, it's going to start no matter what, and it's going to stay running. But when it goes out, say if you're on a trip somewhere, it goes out, then it's out, man. You're not fixing it.
there's no repairing.
Yeah, so you got to replace it. With points, well, with points you can always, if you know what you're doing with them, which it's not rocket science. You just readjust them, you clean them off, and then you keep on going. Carry an extra set of points with you. That's the advantage to that. But the thing is, unlike points, you don't have to. How did I say? Did I say that right? Unlike points with electronic ignition, you don't have to always adjust it all the time. But your points, you know what I mean.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I don't know, like with the older style, like technology, if you will, it's kind of like there was just a given. It's like when some of my first bikes, you always carried a Master Link with you.
Right.
Your chain drive, you always had a Master Link on you.
Correct.
And that was just the same way with with those bikes. You always had points with you. You always had a piece of sandpaper or some sort of abrasive. It was just like part of the toolkit,
Or even just a $1 bill.
yeah, you can just file that right in between the points,
That's one of the reasons I've considered converting my Heritage chain drive, is because if your chain does fall off while driving on the road, you can put it back on without having to pull the rear wheel off. But if your belt goes out, then you got to pull the rear wheel off to actually get in there.
Yeah, that's I debated with that with myself when it came to. I even made a video about it. Should I convert the Tramp to a belt drive from a chain drive, but there's pros and cons with both of those. You're more likely to. Well, I don't know. It just depends on your riding style. You get more horsepower out of a chain, and with a chain you lose 2% horsepower, something like that, and then with a belt you lose 8%. I might have those numbers wrong. With a shaft drive you lose 23% or something like that. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, with a belt, you never have to adjust that thing. And I've put over 100,000 miles on a belt before, and I think I only had to adjust it once because I put lower shocks on the bike, and so it put more slack in the belt. But if a belt breaks, then you're just kind of, anyway, it sucks when that happens, because when the belt breaks, if you're riding a big twin, you got to pull inner primary off, and that's a job that usually is not done on the side of the road.
Yeah, it's more of a tow ride to the dealership or to a garage.
Right. I mean, clutch basket has to come out and everything, but with a chain, if as long as you take care of that thing, that's the thing. Belts are cleaner, and you don't have to maintenance them like you do with a chain. But if you do justice to your chain, still your belt's going to outlast it on average. But you can get probably 50,000 miles out of it. I don't know. I'm just assuming that. But if it breaks, if you like what you said, Norseman, if you have an extra Master Link or an extra link or whatever, just be mindful of those things. Yeah, you can get yourself to the next spot where you need to get to. If a belt breaks, then you're
pretty much done. I mean, it would be nice to be able to have like a belt that, I don't know, like you always kind of envision, like you ever see like how sometimes they like can make their own, like make your own belt type thing, where they have these kits that we used to use at work, where if you had like a friction drive, you can actually take this section of belt and you actually fuse it together and then put the assembly back on. You don't have to take anything off to try to, fit that. But like, I don't know, with the amount of horsepower that most people have nowadays, it's, it doesn't seem like it's feasible.
I know Patrick's actually building a bike right now. If you guys all like watching this want to go check it out, he's actually doing something really cool, like starting from scratch. I'm curious if he's putting the chain or the belt on that bike. Because that is the big thing, is like, especially with bike builders now, they're all still using belts. Because it's a longevity thing when it comes to someone that's going to buy the bike. Because are you going to buy a bike where you might have to maintenance the chain at 50,000 miles, or are you going to put 50K on that bike, or how much power is that bike got?
That's the one thing I miss off my 71 Ironhead was the self-lubricating chain. There was lubrication system that hung over the chain that would drop oil on the chain.
I've never seen that before. I've got this 76, which doesn't have that feature, and my first Harley was a 79, so I guess they did away with that.
Well, it was also the 69 to 71 iron heads. They also did a lot of other goofy things, like your shifter and your brake were flip flopped.
Yeah, they did. Harley with the Sportster, they did away with the right hand shift in 1975, but they didn't do away with it completely. I found this out just from my 76, because I even made a video about it. Anyway, I'm gonna spare all the details because it'll take me forever to talk about it. But I found out that when I bought the frame to my Sportster, well, when I bought that Paco frame, it was advertised as a 57 in 1976.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went to put the brake, the crossover, that crossover shaft for your brake.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm getting confused now. Anyway, I found out the hard way that frame was meant for a 57 to 74 because the frame in 75, Harley Davidson did something different with the tubing on the frame where your crossover shaft went. They moved it probably, I can't remember the number because I measured it, like 5/8 to 7/8 of an inch, and they changed the style of crossover shaft, and they went to a they made that new style of crossover shaft to operate your shifter linkage to your transmission on the right side of the case, and then they went to a cable for the brake on the right peg, on the right pedal. I mean, and they did that from 75 to 76, and it wasn't until 1977 where they absolutely changed the entire engine case to where the shifter pawl will come out the other side of the motor.
Mm.
So, and it wasn't, if you have a 74 and a 75 and a 76, and you want to convert it to right-hand shift, you can still do that. You just have to get the right shifter pawl. You'll have to pull the transmission out and all that stuff and replace it. And which is what I ended up doing because I got so far in this project. I said, I'm not putting this motor back in the original frame. I done started a whole series on this, So heck with it. I got to pull the primary apart anyway, and I got to pull the clutch basket out anyway to fix my kicker shaft and my Kickstarter assembly. Well, it's only 4 bolts. That transmission will come right out, so I'll just go ahead and get a different shifter pawl, and I'll just convert everything over to right-hand shift and left-hand brake, which is going to be fun. I can't wait till the day comes when I ride that thing for the first time because I've never ridden with right-hand shift before and left-hand brake, so it ought to be when I do it for the first time because I can't imagine the goofy thing.
You got to film that right. You got to film that right. Yeah, you got to film that right because I could just be like coming to a light and like acting, feeling like you're about to brake and just downshift so hard, so quick.
No. And you laugh, but it's actually that's how I got my 71.
Yeah, you go to down, and then you go to downshift and you slam on the brakes and lock up the rear wheel.
No, and that's exactly what this guy did right through an intersection at 8 Mile. Oh, and then he took the bike back, and then I get a phone call basically saying it's like, hey, you still interested in this? Because this guy just literally shit his drawers, and he's ready to sell it back to you,
Wow.
But that's the thing is like you got to understand what it is that you're getting. He looked like he was trying to get something vintage, and this bike was done up pretty. I mean, it was done up pretty nice. It had ape hangers on it, push button start. It was well done. The only problem it had was, I mean, minus the little things like the brakes were never adjusted. The float bowl leaked like a sieve. And then the last problem that he had was the generator. You actually had to ground out the generator before you started it every time.
Saddle Tramp has the kind of knowledge that comes from a lot of experience, but it's always learning. I figured that about you, Saddle Tramp.
Well, that's that's really what I share on my channel is the stuff I already know from. Yeah, it comes from experience.
Like my first video of you that I actually ever saw was not even from like anyone telling me to go check out your channel. It just popped up on my YouTube feed one day. It was just like switching from a twin cam back to an Evo.
Oh, that one? Yeah, that's the one that blew my channel up.
Like that's literally the first video I ever saw. I'm just like, at that time, I'm pretty sure I had my heritage, and I'm like, yeah, man, that makes sense though, because the two things I've noticed is like with the Norseman's got an Evo, and I've got my Milwaukee 8, and there's that a lot of similarity in where it's easy to work on. Like I could change a cam in my bike without having to have all the special crazy ass tools.
Right.
And it makes it super easy and simple to work on. And like, if I was to get something like that back in the day, I was like, I would love to get an Evo. Like Evos, don't make the biggest world of power, but you give it some Hemi heads and some other stuff, and they can make some good power.
I will tell you this: you soup up an Evo, you will still not touch what a twin cam 103 will do. Because
hands down.
I mean, the Evos are not meant for performance; they just won't do it.
The reliability.
They're meant for reliability.
Yeah, back in the day when that was the only motor there was that Harley had as far as the B's and E's, yeah, that bike, somebody beefed that bike up that I have now. It's definitely got a cam in it. I haven't gone into the cam chest yet, but I know it does because it's pushing 150 psi at a compression test. When I tested it, it ought to at sea level, a stock 80-inch motor ought to be pushing 118 or 120 psi. But even at that, my 88 cubic inch twin cam would smoke it anyway. But yeah, but like what Norseman said, they are the motor that saved Harley, because before the Evo hit the floor, all the other motorcycle manufacturers, namely the Japanese manufacturers, were just killing Harley Davidson because they had the reliability, they didn't leak oil, they didn't overheat, and you can just get on them and go. Well, when Harley came out with the Evolution motor, that was the big selling point. It won't overheat, it won't leak oil. Well, they all leak oil, but anyway,
they don't leak oil. They mark their territory.
Well, Evos are notorious for the rear base gasket leaking a little bit. Right?
Oh yeah,
both my Evos do it. But anyway, that big selling point was it won't leak oil. What oil they do leak doesn't compare to what a shovel would do or what a pan would do, what an iron head would do. So might as well not be leaking at all, but for what they do leak, and they won't break down and they won't overheat, and you can go 100,000 miles on them, and they've proved to do that, and that's what brought Harley out of the hole they were in back in the 70s. That's the motor that saved them. So that's what they were known for. They weren't necessarily known for being fast on race day. I mean, you can do a little of this and a little of that to beef them up a little bit, but if you go too far with it, you're
gonna blow it.
Yeah, because that bottom, most people do. It's like when the twin cams came out. My first Harley Davidson big twin was a 03 Dyna Super Glide, and I bought it brand new. And back when I was doing the MC life, did that for about almost 5 years. Everybody in the chapter, man, the big craze was the 95-inch big bore kit. And everybody in the chapter did that, and everybody in the chapter after 20,000 or 30,000 miles blew their motors up. They blew the bottom ends out because you cannot mess with the top end too much without compensating in the bottom end, because the whole thing has to work together as a unit.
You're only as strong as your weakest link.
Right.
I remember.
And that's in fact, if I'm correct, that's the issue that they're having right now with the M8s. Is that people are getting these new motorcycles and going to the big bore kits, are going a little too far, and the bottom ends are giving out.
It's not the bottom ends giving out; it's the oil pumps can't keep up with the pressure. So
well,
like the fact,
that's in the bottom end.
Well, yeah,
it was exact. In fact, that was the exact same thing the twin cams were doing back during the era of 2009 and 06. Is that the oil pumps could not keep up with those big bore kits, and then people were blowing them up.
The one I have the people I know, they've got I know a few people with big bore kits on their bikes, and you got to go all in with the M8 to make sure it keeps its power and isn't going to be weak. Because one of them's got a 128 build that's got 150 horsepower and 175 foot-pounds of torque. And that bike is, it's got a bigger transmission, a better transmission. It's got all the goodies in there.
Right.
But, you got to step up that oil pump. It's the one thing you have to do. It's not really an expensive fix. You just pull the timing cover off, or the cam cover off, and go in there and swap out the oil pump because it sits on the outside of the camshaft. It's such an easy thing to add in there to go, and S&S has them, Fueling has them, they're kits that help out with that.
But what it comes down to is that if you're doing the big bore kit, you're not thinking about that. You're thinking about failure on the components, your pistons, your sleeves, your headwork, and everything else that you're looking to do with it. You don't think about am I going to be able to supply enough blood to this thing to keep it lubricated?
Well, and that's why most of those big bore kits come with the high performance oil pumps.
Yeah.
When they were having that that problem, it was the oil not pumping through the system fast enough, so everything wasn't getting lubricated the way it was. Because when you get into the Milwaukee 8s, not only are you trying to pump oil to your motor to keep it cool, but also you got the oil to lubricate everything, but then you got the oil pumping through the cooling system in there, which cools the heads.
Right.
So it's pushing oil through, and that's my heritage. As much as I want to go to a big bore kit, maybe one day, I don't think I ever will. The most I'll ever do to it is a cam because it's already got a lot of power for what it is.
Yeah, and that was actually my motto when I had my 88 twin cam, 88-inch twin cam. That thing has over 100,000 miles on it, and it's still going today. A friend of mine has it now, and he's still riding on it, and the motor has never been gone into except for to do the typical, which was change the cam chain tensioners, which twin cams are famous for that. And yeah, they got better in 2007. They went to the hydraulic style, which they last a lot longer. But anyway, my motto was, I'm just going to leave the thing alone because apparently this thing was engineered a certain way for a reason. And the engineers know more than I do. I bought it to ride it. I didn't build it. And hence that's why my motorcycle never blew up, So it's kind of like if I ever buy a brand new bike again, I'm just going to leave the thing alone and ride the thing, and it'll probably go another maybe 200,000 miles. Who knows? It's just when you get into that whole performance thing and wanting more and more and more and more is, knock yourself out, but don't. It's like that old saying, horsepower is not necessarily staying power. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why when I did my bike, I call what I put on there. Well, I guess the Norseman put on there what I call, I did everything except the exhaust, but I call it a true stage 1 where I put a 2-into-1 pipe, which is going to help, and a good tuner and an intake. Yeah. And at that point, my bike had enough power. It was stupid just with a factory motor.
Right. See, I did that on my 88. Is that the only thing I did do to it was a stage 1 exhaust and airflow. Reject the carb. That's it.
I tell you what, a 2-into-1 on the Milwaukee 8 woke it up to a level I was not ready for. That was something I was not expecting, that much power gains from it is a good exhaust.
But if you stop and think about it, the basic principle of, a lot of people will go ahead and change an air filter and go to something that's a lot more CFM. But the problem is that if you can't get it out, you're restricted once again by your weakest link in the whole chain.
Yeah, the Milwaukee.
That's kind of why your Milwaukee woke up per se, because you had enough air going into it. It just wasn't getting it out fast enough.
That bike flows 130 cubic feet of air a minute. Wow. That's ridiculous for that bike. And you could, I'll tell you this, Saddle Tramp, when me and the Norseman started my bike after we got that exhaust on, the whole sound of the bike changed, the way it was changed, and it sounded super freaking stupid mean.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was about it, but it's like everyone's getting these bikes, and I always tell people, like, slip-ons are for sound. That's really all it's for.
Well,
Like, you
slip
might,
on, yeah, exactly. Because I did that to my 103 Heritage. I didn't want to have to go through the whole process of having to have the bike retuned and remapped and all this other stuff. I just didn't want my bike sounding like a sewing machine, you know.
Yeah.
I tell you though, when I first rode an M8, I was so impressed with it just not even being messed with that I don't know if I would even mess with it, you know. Because I remember the Harley shop by me sent me an email asking me to come and ride their bikes and tell me what I think about them. That's kind of what built the relationship between me and that dealership, because they did that to more than one person, but because I made videos about it, they keep wanting me to come back and do it some more. But when I first rode the M8, I was just so impressed with the performance of that bike. You know, being used to twin cams and being used to Evos, that I mean, I don't
It
know.
certainly made a difference.
I was really
They're
struggling with bringing one home that day, you know.
they're fun right out of the box. Like, that's the thing
Yeah.
about it. It's the one Harley I've ever ridden that you honestly could do nothing to it and ride it, and it was still fun and had the power.
Right.
See, I think, but it comes with a mindset, because it's like, here, I'll give you an example, right? So if I go ahead and I decide that I'm going to put my 80 cube on the back burner, right? And I go to, let's say, a 103. Right off the gate, it's going to be a completely different ride to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I'm going to
because
look at it and say, holy shit, this is like more than enough power. I don't need to do anything to this.
right. When I had my 103, I felt like everybody was in my way.
Yeah.
And I got used to that. And then to go from that to an 80-inch motor was a complete culture shock to me. And I don't mean that in a negative light. But now I'm more inclined to sit back and smell the roses while I'm riding when I ride that bike. And when I get somewhere on that bike, I actually feel like I've done something. You know what I'm talking about. You got one too. And well, with that 103 twin cam, there's like absolutely, I don't want to say absolutely, but you know, the vibration isn't there compared to an 80-inch motor on a rigid mount. It's just
that's for certain.
You're just sitting on the thing, and you're just like, I don't know, it's like you're sitting on a cloud by comparison. But on that 80-inch motor, I'm like, oh wow, okay, two things I got to get used to: the lack of horsepower, which I already knew that was coming anyway. You're talking about 103 inches versus 80 inches. But what I wasn't prepared for was the vibration. And I was like, whoa, hold on. I thought something was wrong with the bike, because I was riding the thing at 80 miles an hour down the interstate. And my feet were vibrating off the floorboard, you know? And I was like,
this is such a great ride.
What's going on? But anyway, now I've grown to love it. It's kind of like when you drink your first beer and you're like, that's gross, but then you acquire a taste. You know, it's kind of the way it is when you're going from new technology to old technology. You got to acquire a taste for it. But back then they didn't have to, because that's all there was. That's what they knew.
The Norseman keeps trying to convince me to put a cam in my bike, and I feel like that would just make it stupid.
I'm just the only reason why I'm throwing that out there is because I feel like you've done everything else.
Yeah, but it's like I like the look. It's got the speed, and it's got the good looks now.
No, my thought realistically is if you're comfortable with where it's at, then by all means stay there. You don't have to do it just to do it. I'm just saying
I want to put a cam in it, but I'm afraid of what will come of putting a cam in it. You know, because the bike's already fast enough that I feel like everyone's in my way. Like, I understand that feeling, because Norseman, you've seen what that bike does. You know, but like, I kind of appreciate that feeling, what you guys are talking about with the Evos, though, where it's just like a really comfortable, laid back ride. I mean,
well, because it's also, you got to understand, like, I think because of the, I don't want to say age difference, but it is like my days of riding hard like that, and just weaving in and out of traffic and everything else like that.
Oh, I know. I don't do that.
I'm done with that.
I'm so worried about
for
someone
me
destroying my bike that I don't do that shit.
But that's what I'm saying is that like you get to a point in your life where it's like you look at it and it's like my ride is just completely, my ride's completely different. I would rather, slow and low than to be blowing people off the light.
So, Saddle Tramp, I want the Norseman right now to tell you a little story about him swapping out the cam in his bike, in his Evo, and what he discovered, and
So mine's a 97. I bought it used, and the guy told me, his brother had passed. It was, bequeathed to him. He didn't ride it, so I was like, okay. I went from a rigid to a Road King.
Okay.
So as soon as I got on this thing, I was like, this is great. I actually have suspension. The bike rides great. My back isn't like killing me after like, X amount of miles. It was great. And he told me, he goes, nothing has been really done to this bike. It is bone stock as far as I know. And I said, okay. And when I was, it was not by any stretch. But here's the kicker. The kicker is that it still had the stock air cleaner. So my assumption is if it had the stock air cleaner and the stock pipes, sure as shit, why the fuck would anybody throw a cam in it?
Right.
Plot twist.
Yeah. So what ends up happening is, I didn't even. At some point, I wanted to do the cam in it, so I ended up doing the.
Before you get into that too, he had problems with the bike kind of running rough, and
was because the running rough part was because I have in the front jug the engine temperature sensor. That thing took a shit on me, so it would basically send mixed signals to the ECM to either redline it or bog it out, and that was common on those. And
but I feel like if you mix that with a cam,
well, I mean, yeah, it probably exacerbated the problem, but I mean, I think at the end of it was like this. The only thing I ever got into on that motor was I changed out my my rods. And I got rid of the stock ones because I needed to change out the tappet gasket.
Okay.
And I ended up having to cut those out, put some chromoly adjustables in there just to keep it from leaking because it was just progressively getting worse.
Yeah.
Fast forward to a month ago. I go ahead and
he'd been telling me he ordered his cam, was all excited to be able to cam the bike.
I was excited because
he's like, I'm going to get some more power, not crazy power, but like get some more power, get some more go.
I was looking for a bolt-in cam and trying to find what I really wanted to put in there was a Carl Speed Shop 495, but I couldn't find one of those. So I just settled out with what everybody else was on the forums talking about was the EV27 from Andrews. Right. So what I ended up doing was I went ahead and me and a buddy of mine went ahead and got into it. I pulled the cam out and I'm looking at it going, this does not look like a stock cut. And I'm looking because the lobes were wide as shit. So I start flipping it around and what do I have? It's a Screaming Eagle 3. Which if you look at the numbers on the EV27 and the Screaming Eagle 3, the only difference is a little bit of overlap. And I mean, it's just a skosh. And
it's not that very noticeable.
It's not very noticeable. But what is noticeable is the fact that on the Screaming Eagle 3, that cam tends to not come alive till about $3,000. So you're like from $3,000 to $5,000. On the EV27, even that minuscule difference, it comes alive at $1,500.
Yeah, because if I remember right, the EV27 doesn't have a very long duration on the loop.
No.
And so what happens, it will increase your compression because even on the wider lobe, I don't know how to explain this right, but your piston goes down. I'm not saying that right either. Yeah, when your piston's coming up on the intake stroke, it's starting to come up while the exhaust, or either the exhaust or the intake is still not all the way closed yet,
Yeah, it's. I
and
think you're right with the intake side.
so you're losing so some of that air goes out, but before it makes it all the way to the top, it's making compression because both valves are closed. Well, with a shorter duration, those valves are closed a lot sooner, and you got more compression happening. And I think that's what the EV27 does. That's probably what I got in mind, because I got more compression in my motor than I would like what I said what a stock Evo would have.
Yeah, and that's kind of like where I was at, and it was just, I don't know, it was one of those scenarios where just doing the research and just taking a look at, like, you know, you got to kind of know your cams in a sense, and like what they do and what
Mm-hmm.
What's happening as you're reading the numbers,
Right.
Because if you look at like duration, the way it's cut and everything else, you kind of almost have to imagine it in the motor as it's opening and closing the valves on your compression stroke and on your downstroke.
Right. And if I remember right, I know that. Let me see. I know that according to Scooter Tramp Scotty, he and I were talking about this one time, or more than once actually, but he has more experience with motors than most people ever will, it's because he lives it. And he says that the Evos, bone stock coming off the factory floor, are already lacking their potential. And they actually want that cam. It's like it doesn't hurt them at all, but you're just lacking in what it can do if you don't have it.
Yeah.
So it's like they want his exact words were they want it. And pretty much according to him, because he knows more than I do, that's really the only thing you need to do. Cam, air filter, exhaust. Heck with the whole high compression pistons and all that kind of stuff. Just put some. You can use the stock. Everything else, just put a cam in it, exhaust, and airflow. Airflow and gas.
And that's pretty much where I'm at with this thing, and I'm strangely okay with where it sits.
Yeah, I'm telling you, with my bike, I didn't, like I said, the other culture shock I had with my bike when I first got it, I had issues with that sucker running lean, and I was like, what in the world? Because I didn't know what I had underneath me. I didn't realize somebody had been in it, and what the telltale sign was when I pulled I just decided I'm going to pull those pushrod tubes up and take a look, because if it's got adjustable pushrods in it, that's going to tell me a lot. Yeah,
somebody's already been in it.
So I pulled those pushrod tubes up, and I saw those adjustable pushrods, and I went, oh my gosh. Maybe this gives me a clue as to why I'm running lean, because I'm trying to run, because I had a Mikuni carburetor on it, and I pulled it off because I'm not familiar with them. I want to stay with what I'm familiar with, so I put a CV on there, and even with the Mikuni, it was still running lean anyway. The Mikunis make Evos run hot anyhow.
Yeah.
But anyway, my first clue was when I pulled the nose cone plate off. I saw it had an S&S high 4N ignition system in there, and I went, uh-oh, there's something I don't know. Now something else I got to get familiar with. What the heck is this thing,
Yeah.
And then I saw the adjustable push rods, and I went, someone's been in that nose cone. That's the only reason, because you can look at the motor, the top end, the head gasket on there it looks like a stock head gasket. It's like it's never been broken apart or anything like that. It's like someone just stuck a cam in there, put a hot ignition in it, put a hot carburetor on it.
Called it a day.
Power.
Yeah, pretty much. They set it up. Oh yeah, look, it had a plug gap on it of about 20 thousandths. I'm like, golly,
Wow.
That'll make it run super hot. So somebody set that thing up so they can do burnouts and maybe pop wheelies going from bar to bar to bar to impress, bimbos or whatever. But that's the word hadn't heard in a while.
I know, bimbos.
The word of the day is bimbos.
Bimbos.
That's like an 80s word or a 90s word or something like that.
The definition of bimbos is your mom.
Wow.
Well, sorry, we went with the 80s. The
Sorry.
80s comeback with the 80s word. Okay,
I'm
sorry.
just hold on. I'm just gonna throw this out there. Okay, when I hear the word bimbo, I'm automatically thinking a blonde with a shit ton of Aquanet and a whole lot of Waterfall.
Oh no, it's just I can
Aquanet
smell.
and
I don't know why I can.
Waterfall.
I don't know why I can
Yeah,
smell that.
Yeah, the
Like,
Aquanet hairspray.
There's
The big
phrases
hair-
you say. Yeah, there's
big hair
phrases you
days.
say, you smell it. That waterfall stuff stinks.
Yeah, you guys lost me on that one, but I guess I'm going to learn something about it.
I don't think it's something you want to learn
Look,
about.
Look at any Poison video from like the late
Ever.
80s.
Ever.
Okay.
Any poison.
And
video
that's
ever.
pretty much it was typical 80s hairstyle where the bangs were just waterfalled. The hair was about that big.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. We just called those guys hair bands.
Well, yeah, I mean, but they were the female aspect of them.
It's the only generation of bands that literally got labeled because of their hair. Like that's
Yeah.
savage.
Well,
they were cool until you saw the music video, and they weren't cool no more. You know?
well, because seriously, it was the band that had
Boy
band-
George. Just
seriously,
Boy,
the band that
Boy
looked
George.
the band that looked most like a group of chicks. That's like the ones that got all the women.
Yeah, Poison, Motley Crue,
Yep.
Cinderella. Oh well, I think the only band I can think of that didn't do that with their hair was, I mean, they had long hair, but it wasn't all poodle-fied and whatever. Was Maiden. They stayed pretty consistent for a long time. Then Bruce Dickinson got a haircut, and I think he's the only one that got a haircut. Anyway,
I can tell you, I think Guns N' Roses was on that, all except for Slash, but his was naturally curly. So
yeah, now Axl, he looks like the mom from the Goonies, the bad mom. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
I can't remember her name. There's two Italian guys and their mother. They were the bad guys.
Yeah.
He looks like that woman. I shouldn't say that on YouTube. That's terrible.
Hey, still a good guy.
I'm
Still
gonna
great
get
music.
I'm gonna get a message from like a famous rock star being like, "Hey, that long-haired dude that was on your show is a dick."
Yeah, that's okay.
His name's Saddle Tramp. Go subscribe.
You can ask him which one.
Yeah, I guess.
But we are up on an hour and a half, guys. I'm gonna cut it off there for tonight.
Okay.
I know we had a lot of good conversation for the first time ever. I haven't had to like fuel stuff. Well, I guess last week I didn't have to fuel anything either because it just turned into a savage show of me going to work and the Norseman taking over. But yeah, man, I appreciate everyone being on here. Saddle Tramp, I appreciate for you for jumping up. Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me.
Eh.
I got a quick question. Norseman, what's the name of your channel? Do you have a channel? I'm sure you do.
I have a channel. It's, I guess, the Norseman.
The Norseman, not just.
Yeah, it's the Norseman.
Okay.
There's a few options. We might have to adjust the name.
Well, that's the thing is like I don't know. Like I tried to like search up the Norseman and like other people's stuff came up, so I was like, okay, clearly they're a lot cooler than I am.
See, I mean, like for when I picked the motorcycle Mick, it was like I actually don't remember how it happened, honestly. But yeah, dude, when I typed in my name on YouTube, it wouldn't pop up. But now that I'm at where I'm at now, like you type in the motorcycle Mick, and it's like he's right there.
I don't know.
Is that you right there?
No.
Okay.
I think that's the guy that I pulled up.
Oh, okay. Well, it's like when it used to be when I pulled up when I would type in Saddle Tramp, Marty Robbins would come up, Charlie Daniels would come up because of the songs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I mean.
And then one video.
No, mine looks something more like that.
I mean,
I don't know if you can see.
I think that's the one I just showed. Oh, okay. Okay, that's not the one I just showed you.
It's got a picture of a Viking. It says the Norseman on it.
It's got a picture of Odin.
Okay.
No,
I looked for you
rendition
before,
of.
and I was like, golly, that's like a big name that's a popular topic.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, wait, there you are. 2 videos?
Just the two from 9 years ago.
Okay, I got you now.
He had a ponytail in those.
That's cool.
Well, because the funny thing is like the story that goes behind those two videos was I got to a point where I couldn't keep the rigid anymore, and I changed it so many times over. I was like just trying to sell it off, and like I came up with this like idea of like, well, you know what? Since I'm selling this thing on eBay, I might as well throw a video together and link it to a YouTube. So I figured out how to do all that, and then just literally shot a half-ass video with an SLR, and this is like basically the walk around of the bike, so that people knew that it was like legit and it ran and it was good.
It was titled "Buy My Fucking Bike." I only dropped one this week.
Yeah, well, ironically enough, it worked out well because I sold it to a guy in Bosnia.
Wow.
Yeah,
I've had a lot of questions. People asking me if the Tramp was for sale, and it's funny because I don't have, how it is with building choppers. There ain't no money in it. I mean, what I mean, it don't take much money to do it.
No, it really doesn't.
And you're thinking this thing is like worth something to somebody, And
well, and that was kind of like the funny part about it, because it's like, to me, like, I don't know, I'm awfully sentimental with things like that, because it's like if I could have kept it, I would have.
Right.
But it got to a point where it's like money was a little tight, and I wanted something that, like, I mean, I rode that bike for a long time, and my spine to this day still pays for it.
Derp.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's funny, not funny, but I understand that, it may have been also too that, as you get, how I say it, when you grow up more and more,
yeah.
That's why instead of growing old, you just grow up. It's part of growing up. Your body starts giving out no matter what you do. So maybe the motorcycle helped it along, or maybe it's just something that would have happened, motorcycle or not. But I remember talking to a man when I went to Giddy Up, Texas, a little over a year ago, that bike show, and this guy is like 60 something years old, and he's camped right by us, and he's got 3 motorcycles out front that he built, and 2 of them were show bikes, and one of them is one that he rides on a regular basis. Every one of them are rigid frame bikes, and the one that he rides on a regular basis is this old flathead, and it's kickstart too. And I saw that he had spring seats. I mean, he had a spring seat on it, and I asked him about how long are the springs on your seat. And I think he said they were 4 inches or 8 inches or something like that. I can't remember. And I told him, because that was the trip where I rode my hardtail from where I live in Mississippi all the way to Central Texas, just because I wanted to see if it would make it, and if I would make it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And anyway, because you get that pile of parts you put together, you want to ride it everywhere, and you just want to like push the limit with it.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, I'm asking the guy about his seat, and he says, he told me how big of springs he's got, and I said, yeah. I told him I carry some 3-inch coil springs in my saddle bag in case I need to
swap them out real quick.
Well, just because I don't use springs at all, but I'm thinking about this road trip, and I'm going, well, I'm going 600 and some odd miles one way. I haven't never done a trip like this on this bike, so maybe I might want to carry something with me in case I need it. So anyway, I said I have like these 3-inch springs, and he looked at me and he said, "You young people, I don't get it. I mean, I got to have a little bit of comfort." So instead of him going out and spending 30 grand on a CVO, he spends about $20 on some longer springs, puts it on his rigid frame, and he's fine. Yep. I thought that was so funny. I was like, that just rocks,
So what's interesting is I had 3-inch springs on mine, and some of the roads around here, it was just between the Springer front end before I changed it over to traditional hydraulic forks. I had a Springer front end on it and the spring in the seats, and like some of these roads around here, you you're just literally just vibrating. You're
Yeah.
you're riding that wave. So what I did was, well, and that's the thing is like things like that, you know, what do they say? Necessity is the mother of all invention.
Right.
So I decided to incorporate, because I already had a lot of like bicycle parts. Like I took some BMX pedals and made them into floorboards. You know, my hand grips were off of a 1950s Schwinn.
Hmm.
You know, just things that I modified along the way to make it like more my own. So one
Right.
of the things that I did was I got rid of the springs, and I put on bicycles they have for, you know, the high end bicycles, they have the rock shocks. So I ended up like finding there's a bicycle junkyard, you know, that was right down the road from where I worked. So I popped in there and found a rock shock on a trashed frame for like $20. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do that.
I see you.
Yeah, no, she's trying to sneak in. So what I ended up doing with that is I retrofitted, you know, all the mounts for it, re-welded it, and put the monoshock on there. And I mean, it helped out, but it's still a rigid frame. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, it just wasn't designed for that.
And that's
So
usually the challenge I like is doing some things, or when it comes to motorcycles, making rides on things that are not the most practical things to do it on.
yeah,
And it's just like, for example, when I had my 103 Heritage, well, before I bought that thing, I was riding around on that Super Glide, and I walked into a dealership in Mobile, Alabama, and I was telling a guy what I was thinking about getting eventually, and I told him I wanted something along the Softail line, like a Heritage, so I could do long road trips with being the missus. And he told me, "Oh, you don't want a Heritage." I said, "Why is that?" And I said, he said to me, "Well, a Heritage will burn you." I said, "Well, what do you mean by that?" You know, he says to me, "Well, it's not a touring bike." And I said, "Well, is a Dyna Super Glide a touring bike?" And he didn't know what I meant by that. I said, "Come here, let me show you what I rode the Sturgis on." And I showed him that old Radio Super Glide of mine. You know, of course, he had egg on his face, and that statements like that is what pushes me to do that, do the
yeah,
you know, the impractical anyway. And ended up buying a Heritage Softail and rode the thing to Los Angeles and back, which is over a 5,000-mile ride, and it was doable. At least the one I had. Now I think about the one I got now, and I want to do that on that. That would be an awesome story to tell. I'm pretty
yeah,
sure.
definitely.
Now, if you really want to make it interesting, find you an old shovelhead and do it. You know. Oh wait,
I'll stick with my Milwaukee 8.
Or better yet, you've seen that. Everybody's seen that movie 21 Days Under the Sky, where them guys rode all them antique bikes from what was it, San Diego, or no, San Francisco, wherever it was, to Times Square in New York.
Yep.
You know, you've seen them. Both of y'all seen them.
They do that every year too, though. It's the old motorcycle cannonball run. It starts somewhere and they ride across the country.
Yeah.
And
that's a different ride. What I mean is these guys, they're not riding just old motorcycles. Yeah, they're old, but these are homemade bikes. These are bikes, and every one of them is a hardtail, and none of them have any suspension at all. One guy rode a freaking Ironhead, one guy rode a Shovelhead, one guy rode a Knucklehead, another guy rode a Panhead, and these are all bikes that are not meant to do that, and they did it anyway. That sounds like fun, because you take a motorcycle road trip, or you plan a motorcycle road trip, and most people say we're going to go from here to there. I like saying stuff like, I want to see if I can make it, you know, and so that if I get there, I go, whoa, I made it. You know, of course, you do it on a road glide or something like that. Well, of course you freaking made it. Look what you're riding. You know.
When did that happen? When did the guy say the Heritage wasn't a touring model?
Oh, you're talking about this was back in 2014 when I was talking to this guy.
Does the guy still work at the dealership?
No, and he didn't even have a Harley Davidson. He was riding a Kawasaki. He didn't know what he was talking about.
Oh, I would have been like, if you know where he was at, if he's still working there, just go back there and be like, hey, I want to pull up Harley's website real quick, and you go under touring models, and look, there's a Heritage.
Well, that's because they reclassified it.
Well, it always should have been classified as a touring model, though. It's the
Well,
only Softail that came with saddlebags, a windshield.
It actually kind of sort of is because of the letters. It's called an FLSTC. FL means touring.
Yeah.
But what this guy was trying to do was point me towards a bagger. You know, I'm not knocking baggers, but he wanted to point me towards the most expensive motorcycle they had on the floor.
Was it a Street Glide?
It was something more than what I wanted, you know.
Fucking
Ultra classic.
But you know, I may end up with one of them things eventually, you know. But just for the sake of me and the missus, because we want to do a lot of cross country stuff.
Get a M8 Heritage, dude. Have you ridden one yet?
Yeah, I have. Very impressive motorcycle.
Super comfy, and you get that
I tell you what really impressed me though. Well, the Heritage impressed me. That was my first M8 to ride. Then I rode the Lowrider S. I really enjoyed that bike. But when I rode the Road Glide in that one video, it was a 2019 Road Glide. It was my first time to really ride a bagger, and that really changed my tune about touring bikes. You know, I mean, I don't know how to put it. It's easy to talk crap when you don't know nothing about what you're talking about. And so I got some experience actually, and I'm going, what, of course, a real good experience with a bike like that would be like take it across country. But
yeah,
here's what I did do when I flew to LA to visit some friends of mine, and I rented I rented a motorcycle, and it turned out to be a 2005 Road Glide, and we rode all day in the mountains in California. I mean, the mountains out west are nothing like the mountains in the east. Where I don't know where you guys are from. Where you live, Mick?
I live in Michigan. I grew up in Washington, so like
okay, you know what I'm talking about.
The mountains are
they're freaking nuts.
Well,
they're not like the smooth, nice ones like they have down in Tennessee and all that stuff. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Out here is what we call hills.
Yeah, where do you live, Norseman?
Michigan.
Oh, okay. You guys are in the same neck of the woods. I'm in South Mississippi. We have terrain that does like this every once in a while, you know. but out there, and well, I'm used to the Appalachians and you know the Smokies. I've ridden through the Ozarks, but you go through what they got out west, it's like, oh my goodness, man.
You can hit snow in fucking June.
That's a fact.
Up in the mountain. It's so cool though. Like you get up there, and it's like it's so hot out, and then you get up there, and it starts chilling off, and you get up there, and it's like.
Well, I mean, you go through elevation changes. You got thinner air and a lot colder pockets, so it's gonna.
That's the only downside though, is when you take an Evo up a mountain. I've seen videos of that, and the guys were.
What I was going to say though is riding through those mountains on that Road Glide. I had no idea that I would think a Sportster or a Dyna would be the ideal bike to ride, and they can do it. But I was surprised how maneuverable, if that's a word,
it is.
Yeah. Though that bike cornered a heck of a lot better than any bike I've ever ridden, and we rode all day in those twisties and turns on that Road Glide, and I was like, holy crap. And I'm not talking about, I mean, you didn't even have to go slow doing it, you know. I didn't scrape floorboards once, and I was like, dang.
And that's why I like the new Softails, the new Heritage, is because that monoshock they put on that bike puts grip at every single angle that bike's at. You know, it's an even distribution, and then I put the Shinko tires on it, and that bike sticks like glue. You know,
well, Shinko's a really soft rubber too.
Though, well, I got the Tour Master, so it's a little bit stiffer. So it's got a longer rating than the 777s, so the 777s.
Okay.
But it sticks. Like the Norseman knew before I got those Shinkos on my bike, the Dunlop tires I had on there, I absolutely hated because they just didn't have any grip.
Well, that's why you get so many miles out of them, because they don't wear out, because they're not grabbing.
Yeah.
But anyway, Didn't mean to like make it go longer though. By the way, by
Dude, no,
talking.
it's awesome, man. Like everyone knows I love talking about my heritage. Everyone knows I hate street glides. Street glides, just the balance of them is stupid. Like the road glides, I love because they're very balanced bikes.
Yeah.
The heritage is a very balanced and dual purpose bike that does both of them great. Like you can ride it around town, or you can go on a long trip.
hmm
The street glide is just such an unbalanced it's the Harley's top one of Harley's top selling bikes, but I hate the design of them. I hate the way that all your wind on that fairing is going to your handlebars. So you get a good crosswind and it's like, and when a road glide gets pushed, it's super windy out. But the heritage, dude, like I would take mine across country in a heartbeat. Just the way how comfortable it rides, and I put that the factory seat on those is probably the most comfortable Harley seat ever.
Yeah.
But I put a Saddleman G Explorer G-Tech seat on there, and like the Norseman can tell you when you sit on it, it's like, like
It is. I'm not gonna lie. I changed out my seat to a Danny Gray 2-up, and I tell you, it's a low profile seat. But to me, it's like to the point where it's broken, and it's comfortable.
And that G Explorer just breaks in immediately. It's stupid how fast but like that's what it is. And I turned it into it, and I can get a bagger tail for it and put the full size bags on there. Because after putting that 2-in-1 on there, I saw how much space Harley robbed me of, which I'm pretty freaking burnt about. Because they look like they're big bags on the outside, and then you look from the back side of it, and you're like, dude,
skinny minis.
Have you seen Shade Tree's review on the late model Softails Heritage that it is?
Yeah, he ripped into it pretty good.
He talked very, very. I mean, he really bashed those bags too. He said you can't really fit anything in it.
I can fit 4 gallons of milk in my bike.
Oh, really?
I know that much. Just for
one in each saddlebag and 2 in the tank.
No, I can put 2 in each saddlebag. I know that for a fact. 2, if there's nothing in my bags, I can put 2 gallons of milk in each side. But I am gonna go to a bagger tail on my bike, and that's really gonna basically turn it into a better performing Road King. I mean, if I'm being 100% honest, that suspension on the touring models is a bit dated, even though they put a shock and then a damper. That's all they did. Like when they put that monoshock on there, just like, so I've ridden a Road Glide and I've ridden the Indian Challenger. I talked about this earlier, but the Fox Racing monoshock they put on, like they put a legit Fox Racing, which is a dirt bike company, shock on that Challenger, and like the grip on it and the lean on it and the level, like the way it rode, it was just so smooth. And I'm like, I don't know why Harley doesn't do this. They have the ability to, but like monoshocks on a bike make it perform better. That's why all sport bikes have monoshocks.
Yeah, I don't even know if you know it or not, but that monoshock design, Harley's is about a 40-year-old design. They came out with that in like back around the time when they were, I guess, late 70s, early 80s, before they came out with the Softail, before they put the Softail on the line. And they were going to do that, but they decided to go with the other, the old Softail,
the dual,
because with that frame, it still had that nostalgic line to it, like the old bikes. And then came the Heritage Softail, which had that old panhead look, and aesthetics. That aesthetic is also what saved Harley. Well, I guess that's what saved Harley. But they wanted to go with that old look that they always had, like with the rigid frame, but they had suspension.
Yeah,
they did that over having performance, or what do you call it, function. They went with form rather than function.
I had a Harley dude walk up and be like, "Man, that 18 looks like is that a hardtail?" I'm like, "No, it's a Softail." He's like, "Oh, where's the suspension on it?" I'm like, "It's underneath the seat. I got a monoshock."
Well, it's funny because that's what the Softail frames were designed to look at.
They're designed to look like hardtails, but still be comfortable.
Yeah,
and it's hilarious how they're like, "Oh, I can't believe Harley put a dirt bike suspension on there or a sport bike suspension." And I'm like, it's what was necessary to make the bike outperform everything else. Because dude, that Heritage outperforms all the touring models, in my opinion, for like performance wise and like the way it rides.
Well, it's a
And-
light. It's well, performance wise, it's a lighter bike for sure. You know, compared to say a Road Glide or an Ultra Classic or something like that. But I will say, I mean, I don't know. Then again, I'm thinking about I'm versing the Softail off of what the Softail I have versus a touring bike now. I haven't really ridden a Softail like what you've got through the mountains. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't doubt one bit after riding them, you know, on a test ride that they felt very sporty, like as far as the maneuverability.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that Shade Tree missed. You know, is it's not so much like the bags are stupid in general. I mean, like they're bags. Okay, so I mean, having a bike with bags on it, no matter what size they are, is nice. But you know, and then you pop the gas cap off of the fake gas cap off of it. And it was like, I don't know what to do with this. Tried to stick it back on.
That was
But
pretty funny.
I think the thing he missed was like comparing it to the other Softails, like the other all the previous Heritage Softails, and really understanding like how much that bike improved. And yeah, I mean there are improvements that can be made to the bikes, but Harley has improvements they can make to the bike.
True. And also, one thing I appreciated about Shade Tree's review, though, is that he was very forthcoming in saying this is all just, you know, this is not subjective. It's just his opinion.
Yeah.
And so he's not preaching it like gospel.
No,
this is just his thoughts. And so that I appreciated that about it, you know.
If anyone knows Shade Tree and I can get him on my Heritage just to let him ride it, let me know, because I want to get him on my Heritage and see what he thinks about it versus the factory one he rode. Because the factory, there was so much shit I wanted to change on my bike. I mean, I did. I changed a lot of stuff on my bike, so it doesn't really like resemble much of a Heritage anymore.
I think his point is like the Heritage that you get straight off the factory floor, what Harley is pushing as what's supposed to be.
No, and I get that, and like I 100% agree with him on that. I do. I would just love the chance to be able to have him jump on my bike and like let him feel what it, you know, like what it could be, you know, like, because I haven't really put too much money into my bike, but something I like about the windshield and that front fender and everything I put on my bike is it brought that old school look back to the bike, you know, the way it looks with a modern feel to it. And like I said, I would love Shade Tree. If you ever watch my live streams, dude, I need to get you to ride my bike and review it and roast it if you want to, because it doesn't matter to me. It'd be funny as hell.
Yeah. Well, I actually like what Harley did with the. I mean, one thing I like what Harley did with. I agree with Shade Tree as far as how I don't know what those little plastic things are on the seat and the saddlebags, but anyway.
Yeah.
But I do like the fact that they blacked out the forks and halfway blacked out the windshield. And this has and the bars, it just flows really good, you know, aesthetically. It's not something I would actually choose personally if I built a motorcycle myself, but I like what Harley did with that. I mean, I could live with that, you know. For sure. I wouldn't, if I bought a Heritage, I wouldn't change that one bit.
If it's funny, I ended up back with the same windshield, you know, the same style. I got a Clockworks windshield, but we tinted the bottom one with actual vinyl wrap to give it that look. But it's funny it ended up back that way because, like, I like the way it looks, and I had tinted windshield, and that blackout windshield looked cool, but I feel like it just took away from the bike. Like the whole aesthetic of it was just.
Yeah, and really that's just a matter of taste. But yeah, that's another reason why I appreciated what Shade Tree said, you know, more than once in that video, is that it's just his review.
Yeah,
it's not gospel.
Well, no, and that's what I like about Shade Tree is it's always straightforward. There's no bullshit behind anything he says.
I really am curious to see if he's going to get banned from riding any more motorcycles from the dealership, though. Because when he made that video saying that how did he put it? You know, it's likely that Harley corporate will come down on the dealership and say no more bikes for Shade Tree. I thought about that too. Because here's a guy who's got like 100 plus subs and who has got more subs than Harley Davidson YouTube does, you know, and you're saying these things. I kind of wondered that myself. But I appreciate the fact that he's definitely not a sellout. And he's not afraid to be who he is, and despite what other people think.
You could definitely appreciate that.
It's funny though, and it's like Harley's got 228,000 subscribers, and their average engagement looks like it's like 3,000.
Oh, wait a minute. They do have 228,000?
Yeah, but
okay, because the last time I looked at him, he had less than Matt Laidlaw. I know that.
Well, but he's got 176,000. But if you look at the engagement on his videos, it's like 41,000 views, 52,000, 40, that kind of views on his videos. And Harley gets like 3,000 views. So, Harley gets those subscribes from people that are just subscribing to Harley.
Because it's Harley.
But Shade Tree has the engagement,
Right.
That's the funny part is like I have videos on my channel that have more views than Harley's videos. And that's just a general, like my heritage ones, like they do very well. They do better, but Harley doesn't know. They got a bunch of old guys driving the fucking bus when it comes to like marketing.
Yeah.
And
I guess that goes to show that sometimes the amount of subs doesn't always have a bearing on your exposure. A lot of it has to do with your interaction with your audience.
The shit they post is boring. Harley's. I don't even think I'm subscribed to Harley's channel just because the stuff they post is boring.
It's just commercials.
It is. It's like they upload a commercial and they're like, new video, or they're doing these interviews with people that like no one really gives a shit. I mean, sorry to say that, might be nice people, but they're not. they're trying to market if they were to go in and find someone like my age, or even and this is not me wanting to work with Harley at all, but if like someone like me, right, being 26-year-old, having like a really cool looking Harley, they might be able to do something, but they won't because they're so worried about protecting their brand that they aren't open to criticism. I think that's something that hurts Harley when it's like you can't take criticism, but you want to be the best.
I just want to throw this out there. So it's kind of like, I don't know, these are like what I feel like are more like progressive companies, right? So take Ruger, for instance, right? Ruger makes a pretty decent, in my opinion, a pretty decent firearm, right? But what
they make a great firearm.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm just, I don't want to like sway one way or the other, but I own a few of them. I absolutely enjoy them. But what's interesting is that Ruger's, like, part of their business plan was they basically took a look at what people were doing with the firearms, like in the sense of like custom work and things that were getting added on to it, this and that. And they basically made a production firearm under the SR, right? And that's kind of like what Harley should be doing. And I think that's realistically what automotive companies should be doing, is taking a look and see what is it that people are doing to customize them and then productionize it.
I've had thousands of people, like legit thousands of people, say that if my bike was a production bike, they would buy it. Like the way my Heritage sits, the style of it. If it was like the special edition, they would buy it. Because the only difference between the special and the standard edition is the motor. Besides that, nothing special on it.
I actually like what you did to it as far as the wind deflectors on the crash bars.
Yeah, dude, like Harley has the ability to do that. I literally fabbed those so they'd work on there. But Harley won't sell them. They're like, oh, we got the soft lowers, or we got, and I'm like, dude, I took a Dremel and a $50 set of hard lowers and put them on my bike, and it looks cool.
It looks really good.
It's functional, except for one of my vents has to be permanently removed because of my new exhaust.
Hey, this guy says, Patrick says, did you all see Dude's rebuttal video Shade Tree recommends?
No, I haven't.
So this guy made a rebuttal against Shade Tree's video. Do I understand that right?
I think so.
Shade Tree is an energetic character, and I mentioned to him on Hi, video that bike was starting to rust, and you were strongly against Harley, warranting against premature rusting. Huh.
Oh, he mentioned that in my video. I was strongly against Harley's warranty and all that kind of shit. Yeah. I had rust on my bike. My spokes were rusting. Like when we pulled my fender off, dude, so burnt about that. I was so
paint. Yeah, it was amazing. The paint underneath. You know how Harley rolls the fender just to give it a little bit more rigidity, but it's also for like when they paint it, you don't get that hard edge right on the edge of the fender. It was flaking, like
it was rusting underneath, and the paint was like you could peel off probably the whole inside one piece.
Yeah, that sucks.
My Clockworks fender.
That's pretty bad because I don't know if they went to paint or not, because at one time they were powder coating all their stuff and it was lasting.
They went to paint.
And it's just crap.
I can tell you this off the rip. That was definitely not powder coat because
I was not expecting to find that. Like my new fender is e-coated, so I'm not worried about it. And it's one piece stamped. And
it sucks.
But like, yeah, when we pulled that fender off, dude, it's a touring fender. But like, I can only imagine what the Street Glides and Road Glides that have that fender on it, what it looks like underneath.
I'm going to tell you this off the rip. When I pulled my fender off, and it was the factory fender from '97, I didn't even have that problem.
Yeah, I was going to say my '94 Heritage still has the. Did you see it behind me? Well, you kind of see it behind me anyway. It still has its original paint, and there's not a bit of rust on the bike, no matter what, you know. And the paint is not even come off, other than like the occasional pebble from the interstate or something. I nicked it, but even the chrome on the motor looks like it's from like right now, like it's brand new or something like that.
See, and that's the funny part about it is somewhere along the lines, you know, like I don't know, back in like the '90s and early 2000s, like they still used like I don't know, like higher quality chrome plating and painting and things of that nature. Nowadays, it just seems like the chrome is cheap. It's more aesthetic than anything else.
Dude, the chrome spokes on my bike rusted I had it for a year and they started rusting.
Yeah, the chrome rims on my Heritage look like brand new still. And the chrome that was on my 103 Softail, those rims, they were rusting. These here won't even rust, you know?
And that's the thing is it's a change in the plating process, you know?
I don't know why they don't use stainless. Honestly, Harley's just needs to jump on the stainless train.
I guess.
Well, stainless also has its issues. I mean, you will get oxidation,
but it doesn't pit and everything like chrome does, like the chrome coating.
No, but you'll still see the. That's the thing is like you'll still see the oxidation and everything else, but
cleaning it's easy compared to chrome.
Wow, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But I mean, every metal has got its own pitfalls.
Pros and cons.
Yeah. But I can tell you, it's like stainless is a lot heavier. You know.
I mean, yeah, dude.
The thing is, like, if you have a solid painting process, you can get away with using, a mild steel, and as long as it's, painted and processed correctly, you're not going to have the problems that you normally have.
Rust.
Goodness.
Yeah.
And that's Harley's.
It was bad.
I was like, I can either clean these, which probably just wouldn't have been horrible, or just get the good looking rims, and I did. All right. But now we hit 2 hours. 2 hours and 8 minutes.
So we're gonna split now, huh?
Okay, yeah. So, because I still got stuff I gotta get done. We got friends coming up this weekend, or Ashley's got friends coming up this weekend. So, or they're coming up tomorrow. So, but yeah. Once again, you guys, thanks for the great conversation. Thanks for everything. Thanks for everyone in the side chat. Hopefully, we can get Saddle Tramp on again next week. Hopefully.
Yeah. Well,
that'd be great, man.
Same time,
I'll be on at the same time every week. But
I'll be farther south.
You'll be farther south.
Yeah, I'm going to Tennessee. I'm going to Tennessee Sunday.
Oh, nice.
So do you come on every Thursday evening?
Yep, every Thursday at 6:30 Eastern.
Okay, I have to remember that.
I'll send you an invite. But all right,
Well,
but
actually, I got a notification on my phone that you were on, so that'll probably let me know too.
his notifications are on. Hit notification bell. Be notified when I come on live and upload.
That's cool.
But yeah. But thanks for everyone for being on here. Norseman, Saddle Tramp, everyone in the side chat. Had another week of great conversation. Next week will be another week of great conversation. Come back with some topics on the side chat. Everyone that wants to like talk about something, let us know because we will cover it. And whether it's accurate or not, we will try to, make it sound good.
Throw something controversial up there.
Yeah, like just throw something controversial, bring it, and be ready.
My controversial stuff is pretty freaking controversial, and I will lose friends over it probably. I don't know. I don't want to bring it up.
I'm gonna throw this out there. You won't lose these friends.
and as always, I don't know if everyone ever noticed that. I always say and as always, not as. Like YouTube hasn't got me for that yet. And as always, I hope you have a great day, evening, night, morning, afternoon tea, brunch, lunch, nightcap, midnight snack, crumpet, McGriddle, bacon sandwich. And remember, to always ride for freedom. Goodbye. Saddle